There you've been witnesses to a scene on a bus. Now, it started as an ordinary late-night journey, and it finished with a punch-up. 4 yobs onto 1 conductor, and nobody lifted a finger to help. The driver didn't get out of his cab. None of the passengers got off to do anything. There seemed to be no passers-by, and if you remember, the bus was set to have stopped near a housing estate, but you wouldn't have known. There didn't seem to be anybody within miles, or at least anybody who'd help. Now, that was a scene, it was fiction, and it was written by a playwright, Keith Dewhurst. Now, why did he want to write a scene like that? Does he just like violence? Couldn't he think about anything else? If it had been a lot of other writers I could name, that would have been their intention, and they'd have been well paid for it. But not him. I know he's not that sort of man. He could have written another kind of scene, but he didn't. So I asked him, why did you write a scene like that? And he said, because it matters to me. Fair enough, I can understand that. If a subject matters to somebody, and that somebody happens to be a writer, then he'll write about it. But if he's a writer, why couldn't he have made the people on the bus do something? Why couldn't they get out and rescue the conductor, and then get the 4 yobs and take them off to the police station? At least that would have been justice, wouldn't it? I asked him that. Why did you make the scene as grim as this? And this is what he said. I wrote it down. That's not what happens, he said. I'd like it to happen that way, but it doesn't. I don't write about what I'd like to see. I write what I see. By this time, I was getting a bit hot under the collar. So I said to him, oh, do you think then that everybody who rides on buses are cowardly and selfish? And he said, no. The people on the bus behaved as they'd got to behave. But surely, I said, they would have done something. Somebody would have done something. Why didn't they? And he said, you better ask them. Which is exactly what we're going to do. What we're going to do is claim the power of a law court. We're going to call all the people who were on that bus into this studio courtroom, and we're going to ask them questions so that we can find out, or try to find out, why they behaved as they did on that particular night. Mrs. Smith, you were involved in that incident on the bus. The 4 boys were very rude to you, and then you saw them punch up the bus conductor. What's your attitude to the boys?
Well, firstly, I'd like to say how ashamed I am that I didn't do more to help. And you know, it makes me very angry that in these days of the welfare state, when the children are offered such opportunities, that they just take them for granted and don't benefit by them.
What opportunities are you talking about?
Well, there's free education and free training when they leave school, and more leisure than they've ever had before, and more money. I mean, what more do they want?
You suggest then that we should take these privileges away? I mean, give them less money and more work?
Oh, no, you couldn't do that. It'd be inhuman. But if there could be some scheme, perhaps government-backed, that when children leave school and they don't know what to do, that they could be sent for short periods to an underdeveloped country to help the needy, perhaps.
This could be said, though, you're just shipping them out of the way so that you don't have the problem. Is that right?
No, this is nonsense. It's just to give them a sense of purpose.
But are the boys entirely to blame, just the boys themselves? Is it just them?
No, not entirely. I think it's a question of family influence. If only the parents could give them a good example, that would be half the battle. But so often the parents take the children's side against the teachers. I mean, we read about it in the papers practically every day.
That's true, but there's a lot of evidence, isn't there, that boys like these come from very difficult homes and are disturbed. They need a sort of treatment. They don't just need punishment. What have you got to say to that?
That's always being made an excuse. There are cases, of course, but to my mind, it's the easy way out.
I see. You've got children yourself, have you, Mrs. Smith?
Yes, I have a boy and a girl.
Tell me, what does the boy do?
The boy's 17 and he goes to a public school.
I see. And what will he do after that?
Well, actually, he wants to be an artist.
The girl?
The girl's 15 and she's at the local grammar school. She hopes to go to the university because she wants to teach.
Your house, the house you live in, what sort of place is it?
We have a detached house with a garden facing the common.
So your children, whenever they wanted to go out and do something violent, could do it in your own garden and not disturb anybody, is that right? Compared with the other children, the lads in the bus, who obviously had nothing, had no background at all in which they could do this. I don't think you're in a very good position to judge them.
I think you're being unfair to me. My grandfather was a poor man. He worked very hard for everything we had.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No!
Help him, somebody help him!
You helping woman! I'm 75!
There you are!
Mr. Phillips, you witnessed a row and you saw a punch-up. What did you feel about it?
Well, I was annoyed. It was late and I wanted to get home.
You didn't help, did you? Why not?
Well, hey, who started it?
Well, who did?
I don't know. That conductor, you know, he was Irish.
Does that make a difference?
Well, everybody knows the Irish. They're always getting into fights and things like that.
So you think he might have got what he deserved?
Well, I don't know. He might have said something that annoyed the boys or made them lose their temper or something. Perhaps he hit them or touched them or something. I don't know. I was downstairs. They were upstairs, see.
I see. This was obviously a case, anyhow, in which you weren't prepared to take sides. Is there anything you would fight for these days? I mean, would you ever get to the stage of saying, I'm going to fight for that?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Nothing at all?
Unless someone perhaps broke in the house or something like that.
I see. It'd have to be something very personal before you did it.
Oh, yes. Something attacking me, perhaps, yes.
When you were younger, did you ever fight? I mean, for example, were you in the 1914-18 war at all?
Yes. I was in the 14-18.
And you fought then because Kitchener told you to fight, did you?
I fought for Kitchener, king and country.
Never regretted it?
Oh, no. You did the right thing then.
You think it was a good idea to go to war then?
Yes, we had to stop them, you know.
Good. This is a war as well, I would have thought. These boys attacking this conductor. As much a war as 1914-18, although on a smaller scale. Don't you think you should take sides in it?
Well, there's an awful lot of this going on, you know, and well, you don't know whose side anybody's on.
See, so...
Well, you don't know who's who nowadays, do you?
The enemy's rather difficult to see. He doesn't wear a spiked hat and talk German.
No.
And in these cases, because it's like this, there's nothing you can do.
No.
Is that right?
Of course, they didn't wear spiked hats. They wore, you know, the old round things, you know, tin helmets.
In any case, you could recognise one, and you can't recognise the enemy today.
They were different from the English, yes.
So your advice is...
They came down over the years more.
Your advice is sit tight.
Well, I think, you know, everybody just should go along.
What you mean, Mr. Phillips, is sit tight.
Oh, all right, yes.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.
You're awful, Peter. You'd do anything like that, won't you?
So you two did get married after all, I see from your wedding.
Yeah.
Fine. Was there any... Did you ever think you'd break off the engagement when you asked Peter that night to go and do something about the bus conductor and he didn't?
Oh, no.
You weren't a bit disappointed by his behaviour?
I was at the time. I was disappointed at the time, but afterwards, when I thought about it sensibly, I was glad he didn't get involved.
But the conductor got punched up.
Yeah, I know. Well, some boys would have got involved, but I can understand why he didn't, because I know him so well.
He was brave, was he, to do it? Sensible?
Well, I think he was sensible.
Let's talk about the boys on the bus. Do you know them?
Well, vaguely. One of them lives round the corner to where we live, but we never have anything to do with the family. I mean, my mum never talks to their mum.
Tell me this. Do you ever feel attracted to that sort of boy? After all, he lives a very wild life and he dresses wildly and goes around in gangs and makes a lot of noise. Don't you find that sort of person a bit attractive compared with Peter, who's very quiet?
Well, no, not really. I mean, it's all right in moderation, you know, flouncing about, but I like Peter because, you know, he's secure.
He's your future?
Yeah.
How do you want your future to work out?
Well, a house. We hope to buy one eventually. And a couple of children when we can afford them.
Now, nobody knows how children are going to turn out. What if your children turned out like those four on the bus?
Well, I'm going to do all in my power to stop that. I'm going to try and bring them up as best I can, so they don't feel a need to go around punching up people.
Peter, on the bus, and I don't want to embarrass you, but on the bus you didn't, in fact, do anything to help that conductor who finished in a pretty bad state. Are you sorry about that? Do you think you did right?
I'm not sorry in one way. I just couldn't afford to do anything at that
Why not? What do you mean afford?
Well, I was sitting my exams, you know, I had to study. Carol and I were getting married next week, you know. If I would have gone in and had a go, I probably would have been in hospital for 6 months or something. I just couldn't afford to.
So your motto really was safety first?
Well, it was, yeah.
Bit feeble? Bit feeble?
How do you mean a bit feeble?
Well, the man there was punched up and you did nothing about it. Do you not feel the slightest bit worried?
Well, I am worried. I just, at that time, you know, I had all these thoughts in my head. I just didn't know what to do.
But not quite worried enough to act?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.